there is a tension between those whose work is being audited, essentially, or analyzed in a way that they don't have a ton of control, versus the social scientists who tend to come in with a strict testing background. That's what they know. They know how to set up a design. And I think there's valid viewpoints on both sides of this question. I mean, I do think especially the early field experimental research into politics and political campaigns definitely needed to be informed by what practitioners were actually doing. There's no question. That's an accurate, sort of complaint on their part. On the other hand, the practitioners had not, and I don't think have yet, taken the time to understand exactly what experimental designs are and how they can inform the campaign practices. Now, the 2012 election was a little bit of an epiphany, especially on the Republican side. They were spooked by the commitment to research and the volume of research that was done by the Obama campaign in particular. So right now, and on both sides, since Obama is not going to run for re-election in 2016, there are a lot of Democrats with experience who are trying to convince Democratic candidates they ought to continue this commitment. And there is a stable of people who are familiar with this and think it's part of a campaign now, especially on the left. On the right, on the Republican side, they're still trying to come to grips with what happened. And they want to make a commitment to research and testing. They think it's important, but they're not quite sure how to do it. And there is pushback. When you engage in this kind of research, people whose livelihood has been sustained by this over the years and who are suddenly being second-guessed by a bunch of poorly dressed, overeducated, underpaid college professors aren't real thrilled with that. And so you can see there's a balance. I also think it's important to remember that some of this, research is what it is. It can make a valuable contribution about what works and what doesn't, but it always needs to be contextualized and understood. And the thing about field experiments in political science and in political campaigns is that we've done a lot of work on mode, that is how messages and content is delivered. Mail versus phones versus TV versus radio. We've done less work on message. And part of the reason for that is that message is so ephemeral. A message that I test and tell you is effective today may not be effective in a couple of weeks. It has to be done. Message testing was a big part of 2012. I think it'll continue to be a big part, but it requires sustained commitment of resources, and that's tricky in a political context where resources are literally gold.